Now, in the last few minutes, DUP MPs and Assembly members have formally endorsed Sir Jeffrey Donaldson to become the party's new leader. It follows a tumultuous 2 months for the party after successive revolts deposed Arlene Foster and Edwin Poots, who was in the job for just 21 days. Well, Sir Jeffrey, who's the DUP's leader in Westminster, was the only candidate to put his name forward to succeed Mr Poots. Well, I'm now joined by Mick Filty, editor of the Slugger O'Toole news website. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Sky News this afternoon. So, 3 leaders in 2 months. Can this one survive?
Well, I think only from the point of view that through trial and error, they've tried all the other options. They tried sticking by Arlene Foster, but actually the political conditions around the protocol, a certain degree of, first of all, backing it and then backing away from it and saying, no, no, no. But eventually her situation became untenable. The party split right down the middle. Ed, probably the less capable of two men, took over. And I think now they've had really 2 to 3 weeks of complete embarrassment at being seen to be split. And this is one thing that the DUP have never really had to experience before. So I think really now, and you can tell from the voting numbers, that most of them realise that they really don't have a choice here. They've really got to back Donaldson absolutely to the hilt, or at the next Assembly election next year, if they don't stick together, they will hang apart.
So it's a new era then, of course, with a new leader in charge now coming in. Can we expect any change of party policy, particularly around the Northern Ireland Protocol?
Well, I think what we'll see, not so much as a change in policy, but certainly a dampening of some of the cataclysmic rhetoric that some members of the DUP have been using. This idea that they're going to get rid of the protocol, well, they're not in a position to do that. That is entirely up to the UK government and in its negotiations with the European Union. But even Edwin Poots, who was, so recently deposed, has accepted, even in his own kind of sort of departing remarks, that instead of opposing the protocol, really what they have to do is focus on getting improvements to it. And, he was fairly positive and upbeat in his remarks that there has been some progress, he thinks, with the UK government. But of course, it isn't entirely down to the United Kingdom government. It is down to those negotiations through the Joint Committee.
So Edwin Poots then, now he was ousted after just, as I was saying earlier, 21 days for committing to power sharing without movement on the protocol. So I think the question here is, can power sharing survive if the Irish Sea border remains?
That's a good question. The Good Friday Agreement has had a very stormy history. It took 18 months between the first Assembly election and the Assembly actually sitting. And on those occasions, it was really all to do with the fact that the IRA refused to commit to any kind of timetable to get rid of its guns. And we've seen breakdowns with spy rings being discovered in Stormont, and we've seen the breakdown over the RHI back in 2017. But really, I think we're getting to a point now that there's been a generation since the Good Friday Agreement. And I think there's a new class of politician coming through, both from the middle, the Alliance Party under Naomi Long, but also the Nationalists under the SDLP, Colm Eastwood, start to chart out a new brand of politics. And I think if these two parties, and I think the DUP and Sinn Féin have been complicit in using the institutions to further their own agendas or to stop the other's agenda, I think if they keep playing that game, they will lose the dominant place that they've held for most of the last 20 years.
Now, the protocol is an international treaty. So what can UK government do to reassure unionists and secure devolved government?
Well, really, what they need to do is to work on all the things that they've been managing through by the extension of these grace periods. There's it's all pretty technical, to be honest, Vanessa. None of this is really massive, big politics, which is part of the puzzle as to why the DUP has allowed it to get out of control. But really, what it needs to do is the East-West. There's no problem. Anything made in Northern Ireland that can come into Britain without any difficulty whatsoever. There's no red tape. There's no. It's when it comes from Britain into Northern Ireland that the non-tariff barriers, if you like, the regulation demanded by the European Union for trade coming from east to west, as long as there are a set of fixes that really take the tension down on that, then I think everyone can kind of get back to business as normal. Because the opportunity for Northern Ireland is enormous. It has not only access into the rest of Britain in terms of exporting from Northern Ireland into Britain, it also has privileged access. Its fishermen, its farmers, etc., have privileged access not just into the Republic in the south of the island, but deep into the European Union, that massive market that's now not denied to the United Kingdom, the rest of the United Kingdom, but certainly is more difficult. So the prize of getting this right for Northern Ireland is absolutely enormous.